Another mini PC, but this one's a little bit different. I like what they're doing here. This is the Peladin W4 5600H. Now, there's a bit of confusion, and that's it. Yeah, if you look over here on Amazon, check that out. They actually say upgraded 5700U. So it's not exactly an upgrade because it's two different things, but it is an upgrade if you're just asking, like, is this one newer and better? And yes, even though it's 6 cores, 12 threads, it's 14% better for most things. That's the CPU performance increase. That's what they advertise anyway, compared to the 5700U. But they have to put that on there because people are going to look at this and be like, 5600H? No, I think I'd rather get a 5700U. No, you wouldn't. You would not. You're going to want the 5600H. Anyway, before we do that, look at all my beautiful games. This is my PC game collection, but it's also a whole bunch of shirts that I'm going to be doing for 70, 80% off. Also, the hardware and the mouse pads. Use coupon code HAPPYHARDWARE and you'll get 50% off that. I'm trying to clear up the shelves as much as possible. Now, these prices are only going to be for the stuff I have here on the shelf. There's a few things that are print on demand, like this one. Those prices will not be changing, but you can go on there and grab just all kinds of t-shirts. I've got all kinds of good stuff left over there. I want more room for my games. Now, you're gonna have to pay a little bit of shipping, but if you grab multiple things, maybe some hardware, maybe some of these, well, that's gonna help a lot. Also, I've got a bunch of games I'm not taking with me, and some of them I've just got duplicates of. They're actually really good games. So I'll throw some of those into the boxes if you order a few things and there's extra room in the box and it doesn't cost me an extra several dollars. I'll throw some games in there. So I'll be giving away that, and I'm also going to be giving away random just stuff from the office that I don't need, little bits of hardware. And then the more premium hardware I'm going to put on the used category over here. If you just come to epicpants.com and scroll down the page about halfway, you'll see there's a used category. I got microphones, handheld consoles, got a few copies of Windows on here. Look at that, Windows 98 sealed in the box. The idea is I take care of you with some good sale prices, and you take care of me by getting this stuff off my shelf so I have a little more room. Head over to epicpants.com, and now on to our regularly scheduled program. So the CPU is 4.2 gigahertz max turbo, 6 cores, 12 threads. It's 7 nanometer manufacturing process with the Zen 3. And then we have DDR4 on the inside. It comes with one stick, Peladin branded, which is interesting. 3200 megahertz memory. DDR4 is less expensive. A lot of these things are parts from, I guess a few years ago or whatever. They're not the most bleeding edge stuff, but difference in speed from year over year is not that big of a deal when you look at the price to performance. It's probably going to be right here. So anyway, the DDR4, nice thing about that is you've got one slot free, so you can grab another one. We've got our graphics card on the inside, AMD Radeon Vega graphics, max frequency is 1800 megahertz on that. You can game on this pretty well. We got Bluetooth 5.2, Wi-Fi 6, and then it supports 3 displays, 4K resolution. We got 2 HDMI 2.0s and 1 DisplayPort 1.4. So let's just go through the ports on this and stick around because you're going to want to watch me take the top off. It's ridiculous, but stick around for that right after the ports. On the front, we got our power button. We have 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2. Then we have Type-C right there and an audio combo port, as well as a tiny little clear CMOS button. You'll need a pen or something to press that. And when you flip it around, we've got 2 USB 2.0 for your peripherals and whatever else. There's our HDMI and our DisplayPort. Then we have Gigabit Ethernet, and beside that is 2.5 Gigabit Ethernet. So you have 2 different options there. Let's make a nice little super fast firewall router unit with the 2.5 and the Gigabit Ethernet. Anyway, then we have our 19 volt DC input right there. And then I always like to highlight the network. We've got one 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, and then we have one of the 1 gigabit Ethernet ports. So we got 2 ports, but one is 2.5, the other one is gigabit. And then we've got Wi-Fi 6 right there. Popping this open is awesome, actually. It's just a little magnetic thing on top. It's a strong magnet, but the top pops off so easily. And then on the inside there, you can see we have one M.2. There's not a second M.2 slot, but there's something actually very interesting. They've included a ribbon cable and an adapter, and on the back of the top that we just took off, right there's a spot to mount a 2.5-inch drive. So if you have an old SSD or even a spinning disk mechanical 2.5-inch drive, you can mount it right there. The ribbon cable is fussy and fiddly and frustrating. Instead of having a regular SATA plug, they've given us this adapter with the SATA and the power, which is nice to have all that in one thing, so you don't have to have a SATA power connector and everything. But it's all done through this tiny little ribbon cable that is underneath the side plastic right over there. It's in a weird spot, and if you have big hands, it's going to be frustrating. It's pretty easy to install. You just lift up, like straight up on the plastic, I guess, thing that holds it in place. I don't know what it's called. Put your ribbon cable in there and then push it down. It's took me a long time because my hands are big, and yeah, it was frustrating, but I got it installed and I got a little 2.5 drive in there. Also, they've included 2 different sets of screws for different sized screw hole mounts on your, SSDs or whatever. So yeah, it's cool to have that. I like having stuff like that. And this was so easy to open that it's like every mini PC should be this easy to open. I think we've covered most of the stuff on this. Let's go ahead and hop in and see how fast it is, do some benchmarks and tests, and play some games.
I didn't sign up for this.
All right, let's see if this game called The Carters 2. See if this plays. Carters 1 kind of got abandoned, and they seem to have put all their time into this. I'm going to be playing this on low with the ambient occlusion disabled on 1080p, 60 hertz. There you go, you can see everything. And I'll enable the FPS counter. So we can almost get 30 FPS. It doesn't feel too much different than playing on a Switch. Doesn't look amazing or anything like that when you compare it to like playing Mario Kart on a Switch, but it feels so much like Mario Kart. It's almost like ridiculous. There we go, doing your slides and stuff. It's not quite as easy to do as Mario Kart, but yeah, it feels a little bit like a floaty Mario Kart right now. Feels pretty good actually. But the thing that's really cool about this game is that we have full mod support, and there are tons of levels already available. And we're talking a lot of people bringing levels over from other games. So that's maybe one way where the company can get away with not getting sued or whatever. Is, if someone brings a, Crash Team Racing or something map over, well, it's like the company's like, well, we didn't do it. Someone else did. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, this game feels, like I said, a lot like Mario Kart. Don't go off the edge. And I'm in 4th. It's actually quite a bit harder as well. It doesn't seem to be nearly as much rubber banding or whatever. Anyway, it's running at like 30 FPS. It feels totally fine to play. It doesn't look amazing, but I can't believe I'm playing this on this machine, so yeah. All right, let's see if we can play some Heartworm on here. I'm not sure if this will work or not. I haven't played this yet, but I picked it up just because it looks a lot like the old school classic horror games, Resident Evil, but mostly Silent Hill type game. So let's see what we've got here for our options. All right, we'll try it on 1080p, borderless, pixelation is on and dithering on. Interesting. So the pixelization is a filter, huh? Well, look at that. You've got different options. And the retro is just a filter, which I'm not hugely fond of. Filtered pixelization. It does look, it does look cool. So we'll keep it with that. All right. So Unity games that look like PlayStation 1 seem to work just fine on this. Good job optimizing this. Got our fixed camera angles. We got us a house. Broken down car and a house. How about it? Okay, this game's pretty. It feels really good to play. Are we going to be locked too? Straight out of Resident Evil. Okay, so Heartworm is pulling all of the nostalgia strings. All of them. Flash. Okay, I can equip this thing. So I can flash my way around here. That flash lasts a very long time. That's hilarious. We are in the condemned building. This flash is quite useful. The hell's that? What the hell is that? What is that? Let's go find out. Alright, I'm not going to play much more, but if this is your kind of game, it feels really good to play. I'm not sure how good it's going to be when it comes to like getting that far into it, but yeah, this works amazingly well on this PC. All right, let's take a look at that Radeon graphics card here with the Unigine Valley. We got a score of 22.5 FPS. This is running at 1080p, just on the high setting. And our overall score is 942. So if you're playing along at home, let me know what you got. Minimum FPS 15.6. So don't expect to be doing AAA gaming stuff on this, All right, let's take a look at superposition. Our overall score is 1740. The minimum is 11.21, and the average is 13.02. So again, just reinforcing that this is not like a gaming GPU. We ran out of video memory with this. We've only got 512 megabytes of memory. It does share some of the system memory. That's why it was able to run in the first place. But the system memory is not quite as fast as the memory that we have, on the GPU. Now, when it comes to Cinebench, this is where I'm a little bit happier because, it shows what we can do. The single core is great. So it's a 6-core, 12-thread. And, when it turbos up, I think it feels pretty snappy for most regular use. When you go on over to the multi-core, You can see it stacks up somewhere here in the middle. You know, it's almost as fast as an i9 9880H. But, you know, you can take a look here and just see. The overall score is 1335 for the single core and 8451 for the multi-core. It's not extreme, but I think for the money, you are going to be able to do like video editing and stuff. All right, let's see what 4K editing feels like on this machine. So I can scrub around just fine. All these files are on the M.2, just in case you're wondering. Feels pretty good. Let's try to do a cross dissolve and just see how that feels. A nice long cross dissolve. These are usually pretty painful, but let's see how this feels. It feels fine. They're both 4K files. That was great. We're gonna try it again here at full. Just do full resolution everywhere. It's really dumb to do 4K in these tiny little windows, but whatever. Let's just try the cross dissolve again on full resolution at 4K to see how it feels. This feels fine. I mean, you could totally edit on this. All right, so it's been about 15 minutes, and as you can see, our readout here with Ada is not working. But luckily, we have hardware info 64 over here. And the peak was 80.4. This is nice and cool, but again, this CPU is not like insane. It's really, really fast for what it is, but 80 degrees is totally fine. Also, the fans are not that loud. They're kind of pleasant. They're just there, not a huge deal. So let's take a look at the fan noise. This is just the room as it is right now at my desk. I'll put it about a foot away or maybe a little closer and we'll see how loud this gets. This is actually a few inches away, because it wasn't doing much. So it's very quiet. All right, the speed's just totally middle of the road, like PCI Express Gen 3x4 speed-ish. It's not even as fast as most PCI Express Gen 3x4, but it's consistent on the read and write. 2841 on the read and 2615 on the write. Let's take a look at the IOPS. This really tells you how snappy it's gonna feel. And I think this is gonna feel fine. I mean, for the most part, once it gets up this fast, I don't think many people are going to know too much difference unless you're moving large files and I don't know, all that. It's fine. And this is plenty to edit 4K raw footage and all that. As for the temperatures, it just basically stays in the 40s, like mid upper 40s. It's just always like that. So yeah, you can read and write all day without worrying about the temperature, that's for sure. I noticed this weird issue while I'm on here. A lot of stuff says 0% downloaded, then once I reboot, it'll install everything. That's kind of weird. I've had trouble installing the drivers, like the AMD drivers. I keep messing up. I've tried switching my DNS and everything, but yeah, just grabbing and installing the AMD drivers has been kind of a hassle. I've even resorted to grabbing, you know, stuff on Guru 3D instead of going to the official website. But yeah, I had to get the offline installer because the online installer would not work. Don't know why. It wouldn't work. Before I had, you know, it wouldn't work on 22H2 or 24H2. So don't know what's up with that. That's a little weird. Also on the desktop here, I've installed a bunch of stuff, but pre-installed on the desktop before I installed 24H2, they had given us a shortcut to the control panel. I don't usually like it when people mess with my, you know, machine, even though they mean well. I just didn't do it myself, but it's handy to have a shortcut to the desktop. But then I start thinking, what else have they moved around and changed? So yeah, it's a little bit weird. I might want to go through the OS and just see if anything else is different. But I guess part of their provisioning package was to put a couple of really useful links on the desktop, which are now gone since we have, you know, moved to 24H2 and Windows just decided to delete everything. Thank you, Microsoft. Anyway, I use OpenShell, so I got the control panel right here. I don't need it right there. All right, so there you have it. I think for the money, it's kind of a stupid good. And I like all the extras that we have. The fact that they're using hardware that's not like bleeding edge means that you can get a lot of speed for not a lot of money. In fact, I'm surprised at all the stuff you could do with this, running, you know, multiple monitors and everything else, 3 different monitors, 4K supported, and, you know, you can play all kinds of games and stuff on this. So I think it's pretty good for the money. It would have been nice to have another M.2 slot and that little fiddly ribbon cable if they just moved that over a little bit so it wasn't underneath the lip of the plastic and so frustrating for people with big hands. Maybe if you got small hands, like tiny hands, maybe that'll be easier. But if you got bigger hands or whatever and don't have a bunch of tools that are not going to damage the ribbon cable. I didn't want to use tweezers. I didn't want to damage the ribbon cable. So yeah, anyway, I got it installed, but it just took a little while. Otherwise, really good little machine for the money. So let me know what you think of this Peladin W4 5600H. And thanks to me for sponsoring this video. See you in the comments.